When
Hey
16-year-old
guys,
Marcus
you won't
Chen
believe where
walked
I
into
am.
Judge
I'm
Frank
recording this
Caprio's courtroom,
right under their
he
noses.
had no idea
Pretty
he was
sneaky,
about
right?
to experience the most humiliating moment of his entire life. With his phone in hand, streaming live to his 50,000 TikTok followers, Marcus made one catastrophic mistake. He looked directly at the camera, smirked, and said the three words that would destroy his reputation forever. Watch this, guys. What Judge Caprio did in the next 60 seconds didn't just go viral. It became a lesson in respect that over 12 million people would witness, and Marcus Chen would never, ever forget. Marcus Chen wasn't your typical troubled teen. He was a social media influencer with a growing following built on one thing: disrespecting authority figures and posting it for clout. His TikTok account, @MarcusNoFilter, featured videos of him talking back to teachers, arguing with security guards, and pranking random people in public. To his teenage followers, he was hilarious. To everyone else, he was a nightmare waiting to happen. On this particular Wednesday morning in Providence Municipal Court, Marcus had decided his next viral moment would be in front of Judge Frank Caprio. He'd seen clips of the judge's show, Caught in Providence, and thought it would be the perfect backdrop for his brand of chaos. Marcus entered Courtroom 6 with his phone held high, live streaming everything. He was wearing a bright red Supreme hoodie, designer sunglasses perched on his head indoors, and wireless earbuds still in his ears. The phone's chat was already exploding with comments from his followers. "Yo, chat, check out where I am." Marcus whispered loudly to his phone, panning the camera around the courtroom. "About to make this judge famous. Y'all ready for this content?" The other defendants, waiting their turn, looked uncomfortable. The court officers exchanged glances, and Judge Frank Caprio, who had just taken his seat behind the bench, noticed immediately. But Marcus didn't care. He was too busy reading the comments flooding his screen, laughing at the emojis, and encouraging messages from his audience who had no idea what they were about to witness. Marcus's mother, Linda Chen, sat in the gallery with her head in her hands. This was her fourth time bringing Marcus to court in 2 years. First, it was vandalism. Then, it was trespassing. Then, disorderly conduct. Each time, he'd treated it like a joke, like content for his channel. And each time, Linda had hoped the experience would change him. But it never did. Judge Caprio had been on the bench for 38 years. He'd seen every type of defendant imaginable. The remorseful ones, the angry ones, the scared ones, the defiant ones. But in all his decades of service, he'd never seen someone live streaming their court appearance while treating it like entertainment. What Marcus didn't know was that Judge Caprio had grandchildren. He understood social media, understood the culture of clout chasing and viral moments, and he understood that sometimes the best way to teach a lesson was to let someone's own actions speak for themselves. Case number 2024-9247, the State versus Marcus Chen, announced the court clerk. Marcus looked up from his phone, still streaming. "Oh, snap! That's me. Chat, here we go." He walked to the defendant's table, phone still recording, positioned so his followers could see both him and the judge. "Mr. Chen," Judge Caprio said calmly, his voice carrying the authority of nearly 4 decades on the bench. "Please put your phone away and approach the bench." Marcus glanced at his phone, reading comments. Someone had written, "Don't let him boss you around." Another said, "This is gold." Marcus smirked at the camera. "Y'all heard that? He wants me to put my phone away. What do you think, chat? Should I?" The courtroom went silent. Even the court stenographer stopped typing. Judge Caprio removed his glasses slowly. a gesture that regular viewers of his show recognized as a warning sign. "Mr. Chen, I'm not asking you. I'm instructing you. Turn off your phone and show this court the respect it deserves." Marcus looked directly at the judge for the first time, and what he did next would be the beginning of his downfall. He laughed. Not a nervous laugh, but a loud, mocking laugh that echoed through the courtroom. "Respect?" Marcus said, still holding his phone up. "Bro, you're about to give me like 20 hours of community service or whatever. My followers love this stuff. This is content, Your Honor." He said the last two words with exaggerated sarcasm, making air quotes with his free hand. Linda Chen stood up in the gallery. "Marcus, please," she pleaded, her voice breaking. Marcus waved her off without even looking at her. "Mom, chill. I got this." But he didn't have this. He had no idea what was coming. Judge Caprio leaned forward, his expression unchanged. "Mr. Chen, you seem to be under the impression that this is a joke. Let me clarify something for you. You're not here for community service. You're here for something far more serious." Marcus's smirk faltered slightly. "What do you mean? I thought this was about the skateboarding thing at the mall." "The skateboarding thing," Judge Caprio repeated slowly, "where you deliberately damaged private property, harassed security personnel, and," he paused, looking at the file in front of him, "posted a video encouraging others to do the same, resulting in over $15,000 in damages from copycat incidents." The chat on Marcus's phone was still going, but he wasn't reading it anymore. Judge Caprio continued, "You're also here for 3 counts of cyberbullying, 2 counts of defamation, and 1 count of inciting a disturbance at a public school. Should I continue, or would you like to put that phone down now?" Marcus's hand lowered slowly. The confidence was draining from his face. "Your Honor, I'm not finished," Judge Caprio interrupted. "Do you know why those charges exist, Mr. Chen? Because your content has consequences. Real consequences that affect real people." Judge Caprio nodded to his court officer, who wheeled in a monitor. "Mr. Chen, since you like recording things so much, I thought we'd watch some of your greatest hits together." Marcus's phone was now completely forgotten in his hand. The screen on the monitor lit up, and there was Marcus, in one of his most popular videos. He was at Lincoln High School, filming a girl named Sarah Martinez. The video showed Sarah tripping in the cafeteria, her lunch tray flying everywhere. But what made it worse was Marcus's commentary. "Look at this clumsy idiot." Marcus's voice came through the speakers. "This is what happens when you're too busy trying to be popular." The video had 2.3 million views. Judge Caprio paused the video. "Mr. Chen, do you remember Sarah Martinez?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I mean, yeah, but that was just a joke. It was funny." "Was it?" Judge Caprio asked. "Because Sarah Martinez stopped going to school for 2 weeks after that video went viral. She developed anxiety so severe that she now requires therapy. Her parents had to transfer her to a different school district. But you got 2.3 million views, so I suppose that makes it worth it?" The courtroom was completely silent now. Even Marcus's followers watching the live stream on his phone had stopped commenting. The judge continued, "Let me show you something else." The screen changed to another video. This time Marcus was at the mall. The skateboarding incident. But it wasn't just property damage. The video showed Marcus deliberately crashing into displays, knocking over a coffee kiosk, and when a security guard tried to stop him, Marcus shoved him. The guard, a man in his 60s, stumbled backwards and fell. Marcus's video showed him laughing, making a joke about the guard being too old for the job, and then skating away while encouraging his followers to do the same at their local malls. Judge Caprio stopped the video. That security guard's name is Robert Patterson. He's 67 years old. He fell and broke his wrist trying to stop you. He had to take unpaid leave for 6 weeks because he couldn't work. But what's worse is what happened after. The video showed at least 8 copycat incidents across 3 states. Property damage totaling over $15,000. 2 other security personnel injured. All because you encouraged it. Marcus was pale now. The phone slipped from his hand and clattered on the floor. "Your Honor, I didn't know. I didn't think." "You didn't think?" Judge Caprio repeated. "That's exactly the problem, Mr. Chen. You didn't think about Sarah Martinez or how your video would affect her life. You didn't think about Robert Patterson or how your actions would hurt a man just trying to do his job. You didn't think about the consequences because you were too busy chasing views and likes." But the judge wasn't done. There was one more video to show. The screen changed again, and this time it showed Marcus confronting a homeless veteran outside a convenience store. The video was cruel, mocking the man's appearance, making jokes about his situation. Marcus had titled the video, "When Keeping It Real Goes Wrong," and it had over 5 million views. Judge Caprio's voice was quiet now, but it carried more weight than any shout could. That man's name is James Rodriguez. He's a Marine Corps veteran who served 2 tours in Afghanistan. He suffers from PTSD and has been struggling with homelessness for 3 years. After your video went viral, he was harassed so badly in his usual area that he had to relocate. He lost access to the support services he was finally starting to use. The judge paused. "Mr. Rodriguez is here today. He asked to be present for your hearing." Marcus's head snapped up. "What?" Judge Caprio careened to the gallery. "Mr. Rodriguez, would you please stand?" From the back of the courtroom, a man in his early 50s stood up. He was clean-shaven now, wearing donated clothes, but his eyes carried the weight of everything he'd endured. Marcus stared at him, and for the first time, the reality of what he'd done seemed to hit him. "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered. "I didn't. I'm so sorry." Mr. Rodriguez looked at Marcus for a long moment, then spoke. His voice was steady, but sad. "You humiliated me in front of millions of people. You made me feel less than human. And you did it for entertainment." Judge Caprio nodded solemnly. "Mr. Chen, this is what your content does. It destroys lives. It causes real pain to real people. And you do it all while hiding behind a screen, never having to face the consequences of your actions. Until now. Subscribe to All Rise right now, because what Judge Caprio does next will change how you see justice forever." Marcus Chen stood before Judge Caprio, all his bravado completely gone. The courtroom was so quiet that the only sound was the ticking of the wall clock and Marcus's shaky breathing. Judge Caprio stood up, his full authority radiating through the room. "Mr. Chen, based on the evidence presented, the testimonies, and your own recorded admissions, I could sentence you to the maximum penalty allowed by law. For a juvenile offender in Rhode Island, that could mean detention until you turn 21, significant fines, and a permanent record that would follow you for the rest of your life." Marcus's mother was crying in the gallery. His hands were trembling. "Your Honor, please," Marcus said, his voice cracking. "I'll delete all the videos. I'll shut down my account. I'll do anything." Judge Caprio sat back down. Deleting the videos doesn't delete the harm you've caused, Mr. Chen. Sarah Martinez still has anxiety. Robert Patterson's wrist still aches when it rains. James Rodriguez still carries the shame you put on him. Pressing delete doesn't undo any of that. The judge opened the file in front of him. However, I've read letters from your mother, from your former teachers, even from a youth counselor who worked with you 2 years ago. They all say the same thing, that underneath this persona you've created, there's a young man capable of better. They believe in your potential to change. The question is, do you? Marcus nodded frantically. Yes, Your Honor. I do. I want to change. I want to be better. Judge Caprio studied him carefully. Wanting to change is easy, Mr. Chen. Actually, changing is hard. It requires you to face uncomfortable truths about yourself. It requires you to make amends for the harm you've caused. It requires you to become someone completely different from who you are right now. Are you prepared to do that work? Yes, sir, Marcus said. And this time there was no sarcasm, no attitude, just genuine desperation. I'll do whatever it takes. Judge Caprio looked at the prosecutor, then at the court officer, then back at Marcus. Here's what's going to happen. You are sentenced to 18 months of intensive supervised probation. During that time, you will complete 500 hours of community service, not doing easy tasks, but working directly with the people your actions represent. You will spend 200 hours working with Veterans Services, helping people like Mr. Rodriguez. You will spend 150 hours working with school counselors, learning about the impact of bullying and cyberbullying. And you will spend 150 hours working with elderly care facilities, understanding the value and dignity of people you once mocked. Marcus was listening intently now, no longer the cocky teenager who had walked in. Furthermore, Judge Caprio continued, you will attend mandatory counseling sessions twice a week. You will write formal apologies to every person you've harmed, and those apologies will be reviewed by this court to ensure they demonstrate genuine remorse and understanding. You will also create and deliver presentations to schools about the real consequences of cyberbullying and social media misuse. But here's the most important part, Marcus Chen. Judge Caprio's voice grew stronger. Your phone and all social media accounts are to be surrendered to your probation officer. For the next 18 months, you will have no access to TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or any platform that allows you to post content. You will experience life without the validation of likes, comments, and followers. You will learn who you are when you're not performing for an audience. Marcus's eyes widened. But Your Honor, my account, my followers, that's my whole— Your whole what? Judge Caprio interrupted. Your whole identity? Your whole purpose? That's exactly the problem, Mr. Chen. You've built your entire sense of self on the attention of strangers, and you've hurt real people to maintain it. It's time you discovered who you are without it. The judge leaned forward. If you violate any condition of this probation, if you create a secret account, if you skip even one counseling session, if you fail to complete your community service with genuine effort, you will serve the full detention sentence. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Marcus said quietly. And one more thing, Judge Caprio added. Mr. Rodriguez has agreed to meet with you once a month during your probation, if you choose to accept. He's offering you the opportunity to hear his story, to understand his struggles, and to learn from someone who has faced real hardship with dignity. This is not mandatory, but it's an opportunity for you to develop empathy, something your online persona has clearly lacked. Marcus turned to look at James Rodriguez, who nodded slightly. I'd like that, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'd really like that, sir." But what Judge Caprio said next shocked everyone in the courtroom. "Mr. Chen," Judge Caprio said, standing up again, "I want you to understand something. I don't believe you're a bad person. I believe you're a misguided young man who got caught up in the toxicity of social media culture. You made terrible choices, and those choices had serious consequences. But terrible choices don't have to define your entire life." James Rodriguez stood up in the gallery and spoke. "Your Honor, if I may." Judge Caprio nodded. Mr. Rodriguez walked forward, stopping a few feet from Marcus. The two stood face to face, and the courtroom held its breath. "I'm not going to lie to you, kid," James said. "What you did hurt me. It hurt in ways you can't imagine. But I've seen a lot in my life. I've seen people at their worst, and I've seen people at their best. Right now, you're somewhere in between. The question is, which direction are you going to go?" Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "I want to go in the right direction, sir. I want to make this right. I know I can't take back what I did, but I want to try." James looked at him for a long moment, then extended his hand. "Then let's start here, with respect, with accountability, with the understanding that we're all human beings who deserve dignity." Marcus shook his hand, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." James nodded. "Sorry is a start. Now you have to show it through your actions." Judge Caprio watched this exchange with the expression of a man who had seen thousands of cases but still believed in the power of human connection. "Mr. Chen," he said softly, "this is your second chance. Not because you deserve it, but because Mr. Rodriguez and others like him believe in the possibility of redemption. Don't waste it. Court officer, please coordinate with the probation department and the community service organizations. Mr. Chen begins his service this Saturday." "And Mr. Chen, one final thing." Judge Caprio picked up his gavel. "When you complete your 18 months successfully, when you've done the work and demonstrated real growth, I want you to come back to this courtroom. I want you to tell me what you've learned. I want you to show me that this experience changed your life for the better. Can you do that?" "Yes, Your Honor," Marcus said. "I promise I will." Judge Caprio brought down his gavel. Court is adjourned. This case will be reviewed in 18 months. As Marcus was led out by the probation officer, he turned back one more time. "Your Honor," he said. Judge Caprio looked up. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Judge Caprio nodded. "I never give up on anyone, Mr. Chen. But from now on, you have to stop giving up on yourself. Share this video if you believe that accountability and compassion can coexist, and hit that subscribe button on All Rise for more powerful courtroom moments. 18 months can feel like forever when you're 16 years old. For Marcus Chen, those months became the most transformative period of his life. His first day at the Veterans Center was humbling. He expected to be assigned simple tasks, maybe sorting donations or cleaning. Instead, he was paired with James Rodriguez and spent his first shift listening to stories from men and women who had sacrificed everything for their country. He heard about PTSD, about the struggles of returning to civilian life, about the bureaucratic nightmares of accessing health care and benefits. He met a woman named Teresa, who had served in Iraq and now lived in her car. He met a man named David, who had lost both legs in Afghanistan and was fighting for disability benefits. And he understood, maybe for the first time in his life, that every person had a story, a struggle, a dignity that deserved respect. At the school counseling center, Marcus met teenagers dealing with the aftermath of cyberbullying. He sat in on support group sessions where kids talked about being mocked online, about videos of them being shared without consent, about the crushing weight of public humiliation. One girl, barely 14, talked about a video someone had posted of her at a swimming pool, making fun of her body. The video had gotten millions of views. She had attempted suicide twice. Marcus listened to her story, and he realized that he had created that same pain. Maybe not for her specifically, but for Sarah Martinez. For countless others who had been on the receiving end of his need for content. The elderly care facility was perhaps the hardest assignment. Marcus had always seen older people as invisible, irrelevant, obstacles in his way. But working with them day after day, he learned their stories. He met a 92-year-old man named Walter, who had been a jazz musician in the 1950s, who could still play piano beautifully despite his arthritis. He met a woman named Dorothy, who had been a civil rights activist and had marched with Martin Luther King Jr. He met people with rich, full lives who deserved respect and dignity, not mockery. And he thought about the security guard he had shoved, Robert Patterson, who was someone's grandfather, someone's father, someone who mattered. The monthly meetings with James Rodriguez became the cornerstone of Marcus's transformation. They would sit in a coffee shop, and James would talk about his life. About growing up in Providence, about joining the Marines, about the horrors of war and the struggle to come home, about losing his job, his apartment, his sense of purpose, about the shame of being homeless, and how Marcus's video had magnified that shame to an unbearable degree. But James also talked about hope, about the small kindnesses that kept him going, about the social worker who helped him get into temporary housing, about the veterans group that gave him community, and about the power of forgiveness, not because the hurt wasn't real, but because holding on to anger would destroy him more than it would hurt Marcus. Marcus wrote his apology letters with the help of his counselor. The first drafts were terrible, full of excuses and minimization. "I'm sorry if you were offended. I didn't mean for it to turn out this way." His counselor made him rewrite them, again and again, until they reflected genuine understanding. "I'm sorry I hurt you. I was wrong. I violated your dignity and privacy for my own gain. I understand the pain I caused, and I'm working to become someone who would never do that again." Sarah Martinez's parents responded to his letter. They didn't forgive him, not yet, but they acknowledged his effort. Sarah herself never responded, and Marcus understood that she didn't owe him anything. The harm he caused didn't disappear just because he apologized. The hardest part was living without social media. Marcus had withdrawal symptoms, literal anxiety from not being able to check his phone every few minutes. He realized how addicted he had been, how much of his self-worth was tied to notifications and follower counts. But slowly, he discovered other things. He started reading books. He joined a basketball league. He had actual conversations with his mother instead of ignoring her while scrolling through his phone. He made a real friend, someone who liked him for who he was, not for his online persona. And he discovered that life was richer, more meaningful, when he was actually present in it, instead of constantly performing for an audience. The school presentations were terrifying at first. Standing in front of teenagers his own age, admitting what he had done, facing their judgment. Some kids thought he was a joke. Others respected his honesty. But the moment that changed everything was when a freshman girl approached him after one presentation. She showed him a video on her phone. Someone had posted it, making fun of her stutter. She was crying. "I don't know what to do," she said. "It's everywhere." Marcus sat with her and helped her report the video. He called his counselor and got her connected to support services. And he realized that this, helping someone else, protecting someone from the pain he had caused others, this was what redemption actually looked like. Comment below with what you think Marcus should do next. And make sure you're subscribed to All Rise so you don't miss the conclusion of this incredible story. 18 months passed faster than Marcus expected. He completed every hour of community service, attended every counseling session, and wrote his monthly letters to Mr. Rodriguez with growing insight and maturity. His probation officer reported that he had become one of her success stories, a young man who genuinely seemed to understand what he had done wrong and was committed to being better. The day came for his return to Judge Caprio's courtroom. Marcus was nervous, but this time it was different. He wasn't nervous about punishment. He was nervous about proving that he had changed, about showing Judge Caprio and Mr. Rodriguez and everyone he had hurt that their faith in him hadn't been misplaced. "Marcus Chen," Judge Caprio said as Marcus approached the bench. "It's been 18 months. Tell me, what have you learned?" Marcus took a deep breath. "Your Honor, I learned that people aren't content. They're not characters in my story or props for my videos. They're real, with real feelings, real struggles, real dignity. I learned that the validation I got from strangers online was empty compared to the relationships I've built by actually showing up for people. I learned that respect isn't about being popular or having followers. It's about treating every person like they matter, because they do." Judge Caprio nodded. "And what about your victims? What have you learned about the harm you caused?" Marcus's voice was steady now. "I learned that I can't undo what I did. Sarah Martinez still deals with anxiety because of my video. Mr. Rodriguez still carries the humiliation I caused him. Robert Patterson's wrist still bothers him. But I also learned that while I can't undo the past, I can work every day to be someone who would never do that again. I can use my experience to help others avoid making the same mistakes. I can be part of the solution instead of part of the problem." James Rodriguez stood up in the gallery. "Your Honor, if I may." Judge Caprio nodded. James walked forward. "I've met with Marcus every month for 18 months. I've watched him go from a scared kid making excuses to a young man taking responsibility. He's put in the work. He's shown up even when it was hard. He's earned this second chance." Marcus turned to James. "Mr. Rodriguez, I know I can never fully make up for what I did to you, but I want you to know that you changed my life. You showed me what real strength looks like, what real character looks like. Thank you for not giving up on me." Judge Caprio stood up. "Mr. Chen, based on the reports from your probation officer, the testimonials from the organizations where you served, and what I've witnessed today, I'm terminating your probation early. You've completed 18 months of hard work, genuine growth, and demonstrated remorse. Your record will be sealed, and you'll be released from all conditions." But before Marcus could celebrate, Judge Caprio raised his hand. "However, I'm going to challenge you to do something more. You spent 18 months learning who you are without social media. You discovered that you're capable of empathy, of hard work, of genuine connection. Now I want you to take that person, that better version of yourself, and use it to help others." Marcus looked up, confused. "What do you mean, Your Honor?" Judge Caprio smiled, a rare sight in his courtroom. "I mean that you have a unique perspective, Mr. Chen. You've lived on both sides of this issue. You know what it's like to be the bully and to understand the harm it causes. You know what social media addiction looks like from the inside. You have the power to reach young people in a way that adults can't. I'm challenging you to use that power for good. Marcus's eyes widened. You want me to go back on social media? Judge Caprio shook his head. I want you to make a choice. You can walk away from it entirely, which would be perfectly reasonable. Or you can return to it as a completely different person, using your platform not to tear people down, but to build them up, to educate about the real consequences of cyberbullying, to promote kindness instead of cruelty, to be the person you wish you had been 18 months ago. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. Your Honor, if I go back, it has to be different. It has to mean something. I don't want to just talk about change. I want to show it. Judge Caprio nodded. Then show it, Mr. Chen. Show the world that people can change. That mistakes don't have to define us. That accountability and growth are possible. Be the example you wish you had seen when you were making those terrible choices. Marcus Chen walked out of that courtroom a free man. But more importantly, he walked out as a different person than the one who had walked in 18 months earlier. 3 months later, Marcus did return to social media, but not as Marcus No Filter. He created a new account called Second Chances Matter. His first video was him, sitting in front of the camera with no filters, no edits, no performance, just honesty. My name is Marcus Chen, and 21 months ago, I was sentenced in court for cyberbullying, property damage, and being a terrible person. I hurt real people for views and likes, and today, I want to tell you why that was the best thing that ever happened to me. His videos now featured his work with veterans, his conversations with bullying survivors, his presentations at schools. He interviewed James Rodriguez with James's permission, and they talked openly about harm, accountability, and forgiveness. He shared resources for people dealing with cyberbullying. He called out toxic behavior when he saw it. And slowly, he built a new following, not of people who wanted to watch him hurt others, but of people who believed in second chances and wanted to be better themselves. Sarah Martinez eventually reached out to him. Not to forgive him, she made that clear, but to tell him that his new content had helped her younger sister, who was being bullied online. That meant more to Marcus than any viral video ever had. Judge Frank Caprio kept the letter Marcus sent him on his final day of probation. It sat on his desk alongside the letters from Tyler Morrison and hundreds of other people whose lives he had touched. The letter read, Dear Judge Caprio, today is my last day of probation, but it's really the first day of the rest of my life. You could have given up on me. You could have thrown me in detention and let me rot. Instead, you saw something in me I couldn't see in myself. You believed I could be better, and you gave me the chance to prove it. I'm not perfect now. I still make mistakes. But every day, I try to be the person you believed I could become. Thank you for teaching me that justice isn't just about punishment. It's about transformation. It's about giving people the tools and the opportunity to become better. It's about never giving up on someone's potential for change. I hope I make you proud. Respectfully, Marcus Chen. Judge Caprio read that letter whenever he had a difficult case, whenever he felt discouraged, whenever he wondered if his approach of compassion combined with accountability really made a difference. And he was reminded that sometimes the best justice isn't the harshest punishment. Sometimes it's the wisdom to see the person beyond the crime, the courage to offer a second chance, and the patience to believe that people can change, because Marcus Chen changed. not because he avoided consequences, but because he faced them. Not because punishment broke him, but because accountability and compassion rebuilt him. And Judge Frank Caprio continued to believe, case after case, year after year, that every person who walked into his courtroom deserved to be seen, to be heard, and to be given the chance to become better than they were. Because that's what real justice looks like. If this story moved you, subscribe to All Rise right now. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, we all make mistakes. What defines us is what we do after.